There's Just Something About Kansas City is brought to you in part by the generosity of our friends at the Cockrell Family Foundation, the Bergman family, and the Sherman Family Foundation. Thank you.
Folks, welcome once again to another episode of There's Just Something About Kansas City. I'm your host, Frank Boland, sitting right across from me, a young man who's way too young to retire, Paul Kempinski, who is about ready to retire from his incredible job at Children's Mercy Hospital, which is one of our gems here in Kansas City. But you're too young to. What do you mean you're retiring, walking away, being president and CEO?
Yeah, Frank, obviously you haven't seen my birth certificate, but I'm 64 years old. You know, people don't think I'm 64. Yeah, I'm a little bit up there, but I am, I'm excited and bittersweet about my retirement. I've had a chance to lead one of the preeminent children's health systems in the country. It's been an honor and a blessing for me. But you know what? We've accomplished so much in this great organization. I tend to be a sprinter, not a marathoner, and this is the right time to hand off the baton and let the next leader take it to even greater levels. So,
yeah, you're right, because Randall O'Donnell was there for 25 years before you, and then you came in, and you've been there since 2018, and so it's been a 6-year sprint for you. But what you've accomplished in that time has been absolutely incredible. I mean, it's just, the hospital itself is incredible. It's always known, Forbes magazine, you know, all the magazines, top magazines. It's one of the top children's hospitals, not just in the United States, but in the world. It's just an incredible place.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, I appreciate your comments, but, you know, we're fueled by 8,800 amazing team members. They do the real work every day. And I always say I have the easy job, and I just get to support and observe and honor the work that they do to really care for kids and improve the lives of families. And I think we've done that incredibly well, and we've accomplished a lot, and we provide amazing care. We've invested heavily into research and discovery so that we can translate those discoveries to the bedside. And it's really just been an honor to lead the organization and support the amazing people that we have working there.
Yeah, and you have an amazing background yourself. We'll talk about that, and then we'll get back into Children's Mercy a little bit about future, et cetera. You've been 4 decades in healthcare. You've seen so many changes and so many improvements and research and development, everything that's going on. What propelled you when you were a young guy or whatever, and you ended up at Penn State? You're a proud Penn State grad. Whatever propelled you or got you interested in the healthcare system?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, you know, I was a baseball player, and I was a really...
I heard about the 2 no-hitters. Okay, I heard you threw a couple no-hitters.
I have to, tell a little bit of my, my grand accomplishments. But no, I was a really good high school player, and I had some Division II and III schools looking at me. But my dad was a pharmacist and happened to be a pharmacy director for the last 12 years of his career in the VA system. And he basically said, you're going to go to Penn State and you're going to be an engineer. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I said, okay, that sounds good. So I went to Penn State, walked on to the baseball team, started out as an engineering major. And I realized a few things pretty quickly. Number one, I wasn't going to play in the major leagues. Number two, I was going to be sitting my butt on the pine at Penn State for 4 years in all likelihood. And number three, I didn't want to be an engineer. I had an interest in healthcare because of what my dad did, but I wasn't drawn by the science. I didn't want to go to medical school, pharmacy school, nursing school. So I literally started paging through the book of majors called the Blue Book at Penn State. And I saw something called health planning and administration. And I thought, well, that's really cool. That's healthcare, but it's also the business side of healthcare, the planning side, the policy side. Right. I changed my major. I was trembling when I called my dad up to tell him I was going to do it because I thought he was going to be mad, but he was incredibly supportive. I changed my major, and that was my entree into healthcare leadership. So finished my undergraduate degree at Penn State, went right to graduate school in Chicago at a place called Rush University.
Yeah, which I'd never heard of before I started doing the research on you. And I heard of Rush University. I just went, oh, I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So Rush University is part of Rush University Medical Center, one of the largest academic medical centers in the country. The medical school there is one of the first medical schools in the United States, has a rich history. And I went into a program, my master's is in health systems management. And the program was 2 years. We worked in part-time positions in the morning. We went to class all afternoon. So we came out of the program with a master's degree and 2 years of experience. And I got hired by the medical center after grad school, worked there for 10 years. So that was really the beginning of my healthcare leadership career. And Rush and just the Chicagoland area was a great place to sort of, break my teeth in healthcare leadership. And it was a great learning laboratory, had a lot of fun, learned a tremendous amount. And we went on from there.
Yeah, right. And then your next job after that was, did you go from there to Pittsburgh?
I went there right from there to Pittsburgh.
My old hometown.
A place that you know well.
Yeah, and you're from the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I'm
Mountaintop, PA on the eastern side of the state.
If any of your listeners know where Mountaintop is, they should write in immediately so that we can meet them. But northeastern Pennsylvania, and was recruited to Pittsburgh at a time when I was dating my wife, my future wife, Maureen. We weren't engaged at the time. Got offered this job in Pittsburgh.
Is she from?
She's from Chicago.
Chicago, okay.
Yeah, met her in Chicago. So we were dating for about 5 months. I knew I liked her, but I wasn't sure where it was heading. Get this job offer in Pittsburgh. I turned it down at first because I thought, gosh, I don't want to, leave Maureen. They came back to me, sweetened the offer. Maureen came to me and said, you know what? If this is the right opportunity for you, you should take it. Mm-hmm. And she said, I'll move out there. And I thought, So she moved out. We didn't live together. Maureen's a pediatric nurse by background. So I've always, understood the importance of great nurses in any hospital. She got a job and I moved out there. Her friend said, you're nuts because he's going to use you just as a support system for 6 months.
You're going to pay.
Yeah,
she's going to pay.
And I said, I would never do that to you. Well, long story short, she moved out. And within a matter of 6 to 9 months, I proposed and we became engaged. And I enjoyed a nice 5-year stint in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, right. And Pittsburgh has a tremendous hospital system as well.
Oh, yeah.
They have their own hospital hill right there in Oakland, which is right next to University of Pittsburgh campus.
Yeah, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, it's right. Hill. It's on campus for all practical purposes.
That's right.
It's right. Urban campus. Yeah, that's great. And then from there, you head to Rochester, New York.
Yeah. The same person. One of my still great friends and mentors in the field, a guy named Bill Holman. He's the one who recruited me from Chicago to Pittsburgh. He left to go to Rochester, New York, called me up 7 or 8 months later and said, I want you to come up here to Rochester, 100 inches of snow per year, and help me lead the Genesee Hospital.
It's a good way for Maureen to say, I can go back to Chicago to live in this kind of weather, right?
I'll pick your poison, immense cold or a lot of snow.
That's right.
So we went up to Rochester and really loved the community up there. Great healthcare community, great academic community. We still have some great friends up there and spent 5.5 years up there working for Bill, who is still a great friend to this day and was a great mentor.
Yeah, as you said too, and we will talk about how small the industry is. You think, wow, hospitals and all this stuff, but the children's pediatric care is extremely small group of people that get to know each other and interact and spread out all across the United States.
Yeah, it really is. And, in this case, I was still in adult healthcare at this point in time. So I was still not yet in the children's hospital space, but, slowly meandering my way toward.
Right. And then you end up not too far from my alma mater, Villanova.
That's right.
Right down the street in Darby, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So now you're a little bit closer to home anyway at that point, right?
Yeah. So I was leading sort of the flagship hospital of Mercy Health System, which at that time was a 5-hospital system, part of Catholic Health East. The Catholic health systems have merged and consolidated a lot. So it's a different structure now. But that was the point that I began to think about my next steps and, the possibility of being in children's healthcare. The impetus for that, my sister, who was 10 years older than me, was a musician. She's deceased now, but a great musician, played 7 instruments, had a beautiful voice, taught kids, taught choirs. My brother was an elementary school teacher for about 45 years, coached basketball, coached me in CYO basketball, American Legion baseball. So my 2 siblings were, their purpose in life was really involved with kids. And I was kind of feeling drawn to that myself. Right. So 2.5 years into my stint at Children's Mercy, I got a call from a recruiter who was looking to fill the chief operating officer position at the Alfred I. DuPont Hospital for Children in Wilmington, Delaware. And that was really the window that opened up for me as an entree into kids' health.
Into kids' health at that point.
Yeah.
And that was in Wilmington, and that's the Nemours, if I'm saying it
Nemours,
correctly. Nemours, okay. Alfred DuPont in Wilmington, Delaware, which is a terrific medical facility.
It was, I really enjoyed. I was with Nemours for 16 years, came as the chief operating officer, got promoted a couple times, became president of the hospital, and I was an enterprise vice president for the system. Nemours has operations in Florida as well. It's an incredible story. Probably could do another podcast on
yeah,
it. Yeah,
we might.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, spent 16 incredible years there.
Yeah. So now, did you realize you were going to have to do so much moving? And this is almost like working for IBM. If you don't take the next move, you're getting fired.
Frank, it's a great question. And I think I've been fortunate because I was really recruited to some great organizations in different markets, different types of organizations. I learned so much. But when Maureen and I started having our children, there comes a time when you realize that you want to find a place to kind of settle for a while, because my career has been important to me, but it's always been superseded by many other things, not the least of which is my relationship with my incredible wife and our kids. So, we had the chance to really settle in the Philadelphia area for 18 years altogether. And so, a lot of times, especially in children's healthcare, to move up, you're going to have to move at times. But there are times in your life when you realize that stability is really important too, especially for your kids and for your family.
Yeah, right. And knowing, if this highway's blocked, I know exactly how to get there through the side streets, right? That's not a bad deal to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what happened essentially was, I've been there for 16 years, and at Nemours, the tradition has always been the CEO is a physician, and I'm not a physician. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of people telling me, Paul, you are ready to be running your own system. It's not going to happen here because you don't have the MD after your name. So Maureen and I had a crucial conversation, and it was the right time in our life. We were becoming empty nesters. So she was incredibly supportive and said, if the right opportunity comes along, let's go after it. And long story short, the calls that I always got that I politely declined, I started accepting and exploring opportunities. And, lo and behold, here comes the Children's Mercy opportunity. And, I knew nothing about Kansas City.
I was just going to ask you, do you even know what side state line it was on at that point?
No. Well, I actually knew it was in
Missouri.
The big Kansas City was in Missouri. But I didn't know much about the town at all. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you a little story. The first visit I had to interview with the search committee, I got off the airplane and I saw the old airport for the first time. And truth be told, my first reaction was, well, at least I can say I've been to Kansas City. So I had been I thought, oh my goodness, the new it doesn't look very good here. It's not a very modern airport. And that was a first impression for me. So from the day I took the position, I was a strong supporter of the new airport because it really sets the first impression for a community in many respects. And Kansas City is such an incredible place. And now we have an incredible airport to create that first impression.
That's interesting you said, because that was everybody loved the old airport because it's so convenient. Yeah. In the old days before 9/11, you could walk, it was like 10 steps between there and your lounge seat, waiting for your plane.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it started changing. Some people have to be dragged kicking and screaming to make change. But I've been to the new airport, and it's like the facade of a house.
Yeah.
Okay. You see this great house or whatever, and then you want to see what's inside.
Well,
and that's what you want to see.
Exactly. And for me, I called my wife up that night after that first visit, and I told her, I said, this is more intriguing than I thought it would be at the beginning of the day, because once I got a glimpse of the community and a glimpse of Children's Mercy and the people, I realized, there's something special here that I'm picking up.
Yeah, right.
And, the rest is history.
Yeah, let's talk. In the three kids we'll mention, and we'll talk about them a little later as well, Kristen, Brian, and Jenny. Okay, so they had already started on their way in life when you decided to do this. How many other places were contacting you besides Kansas City at that point?
Well, I had three great opportunities that were kind of horse racing with one another. I won't tell you where they were or who they were with, but a lot of places. And, as leaders in the healthcare space, you get calls from recruiters all the time, as positions open up. And again, up until that point, I had politely declined and may have referred other people. But, once Maureen and I really made a decision to start exploring what the next step would be, that's when I started taking those calls. But there were 3 opportunities. But I'll tell you what sealed the deal for me with Children's Mercy. Number one was it's an independent children's health system.
Right.
There's only 28 independent children's health systems in the United States of 220 or so children's hospitals. And what that means is that our mission is all about kids. We are not part of a larger adult system where sometimes the children's mission can take a backseat. Everything we do is about kids. Number 2, the strategic investment that Children's Mercy was making in research. The preeminent hospitals and children's hospitals in the United States invest in research, and especially translational research, where you can take those new discoveries and get them quickly to the care of kids at the bedside and in the clinic. And number 3 was a little bit more of a benign thing, but Children's Mercy had invested in lean as their culture of improvement. And I was familiar with that because I was leading the same journey at Nemours, and that really kind of inspired me. So those were the 3 things that really kind of said, this is a great opportunity. But I'll tell you what, once I started learning more about Kansas City and about the organization, it became clear that I was coming into a community that I now still describe as the greatest story never told.
Yeah.
Chat about that.
Well, we're trying to tell it. Okay, we're trying to get it out
and we
there.
should, and we should.
We should be waving our own banners. And I think there have been a lot of things that happened recently. Talk about the new airport, and we had the 2 World Series runs in 14 and 15. You've had the Chiefs now. You had the draft. You got the World Cup's coming. I mean, this town is really waving its own banner now. Everybody's starting to understand what it's all about.
Kansas City is on the rise, and my wife and I, we always say we're so fortunate. We came in here. Chiefs won a Super Bowl, and
you were the good luck charm. Okay,
Cleveland started calling me and saying, "Hey, come to Cleveland," because anyway, I was in Philadelphia when the Eagles won a Super Bowl, and here, and saw the Bears win a Super Bowl in '85 in Chicago when I lived there. But anyway, it's an amazing, amazing town. The people are incredible. It's big enough to be sophisticated, small enough to be manageable.
Yeah.
You know this as well as anybody. It's sort of a big but small city. And look at what's happening. You have the Chiefs, you have the Royals, you have the World Cup, you have the NFL draft. You have all this great stuff happening in a place that was just poised for greatness and success. And that trajectory is just continuing to take off.
You have an interesting story about the interview with the hospital. And you were talking about you almost lost it because of college basketball. Explain the story here.
Yeah. So,
which will make me feel good, okay? Because I'm in the same position you were.
Yeah. So, I'm a Penn State guy. So, I came to Kansas City without a horse in the race of, KU versus K-State versus Mizzou or whatever. But I'm in my one of my interviews with the search committee, and one of our board members, who was a kind of a KU guy and knew I was a Penn State guy, said, "Well, you've got us in football, but we've got you in basketball." And I said, "Well, Charlie, I'm actually a Villanova basketball fan because I live about 20 minutes from the campus." And I said, "I realize that probably just cost me the job, but I'm just trying to keep it real here." And that got a big laugh in the room. And watched a lot of Villanova basketball living in Westchester. We were about 20 minutes away.
Right.
Had a chance to meet Jay Wright a few times. Great guy, great
Wonderful
program.
man.
And there's a lot of crossover between sports, coaching, and leadership. And you know that. And you've interviewed some of the greats and gotten to know them. So I've always, being a sports guy myself, having played baseball and basketball, I tend to follow the great coaches and the great programs, and I try to learn and absorb some of those common traits that can cross over between one versus the other.
Right. And I think it must have been incredible for you to look back on some of the Children's Mercy Hospital history in the Tom Watson connection with Tom Watson at Children's Mercy Hospital Golf Classic.
I'll tell you what. Well, first of all, Children's Mercy, as you know, has this incredible 128 year history.
Right.
2 amazing women, sisters,
right.
blood sisters, one a surgeon, one a dentist, imagine the barriers they broke through to go through medical school, dental.
Remember, just to give people an idea, Children's Mercy Hospital was founded in 1897. It wasn't called Children's Mercy, and it was basically founded by Catherine and Alice Berry.
Yes.
Okay, they were the two sisters. They were both, one was a doctor, and I think the other was a nurse.
Dentist.
A dentist. And the deal was, women weren't allowed in. They wouldn't let them in there. Right. They wouldn't let them in the hospital. So they had to rent beds to care for their patients in some of these hospitals because they weren't allowed, which is now part of what the Berry Institute is at Children's Mercy, if you don't have some of that background. They were two incredible women. They were just unbelievable.
Yeah, and for me, one of the things, there's a book that was written that traced the history of Children's Mercy up until 2017. I keep that book on the coffee table in my office, and periodically I'll just reference it a little bit. I'll go and I'll read a little bit about the history of Children's Mercy, and especially Catherine and Alice Berry, because their vision that they had, including research and philanthropy, still rings true today. And what was important to them remains important to us. And I always think a little bit about what would the sisters do? How would they think about this? And they never accepted complacency or the status quo. They were always looking to see what can be done at the next level to improve the well-being of children. And that's what I've tried to do as the leader of Children's Mercy and as an organization that is inherent within our culture, this healthy impatience with the status quo. And now we have a world-class research institute. We are one of the preeminent children's health systems in the United States. But that is all living out the legacy and the vision of these amazing women from 128 plus years ago.
Yeah, right. It's amazing. You've never lost that vision.
That's right.
I mean, and you could have gone different ways. There's so many hospitals consolidating now. You see it all the time. And that's what keeping Children's Mercy Hospital independent has been probably one of the best things you've ever done. I mean, as far as the hospital is concerned.
Yeah, and that's important, and that independence is sacrosanct for us. And we're one of the few, the proud, the Marines when it comes to the number of independent children's hospitals.
Yeah.
But we're strong as well, and we continue to focus on just how we can take great care of kids and how we can be continue to be an important component of the community at large. We're the fourth largest private employer in the Kansas City region. We take that role very, very seriously. So we're part of the economic engine. We're part of the vibrancy of this Kansas City community. And we're part of this healthcare and research ecosystem that is so important for us to continue to keep Kansas City on this amazing trajectory.
Yeah, and I remember when I first got here, I got here in April of 81, and Tom Watson used to have his Children's Mercy Hospital Golf Classic in June.
Yeah.
And it was like 2 months later, and I'm new, just came down from Green Bay. I was in one of those places like Chicago, and just felt I'd died and gone to heaven just from the weather standpoint alone. And the weather here is not great, but the deal was I end up at Children's Mercy Hospital, and there's Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer. Arnold Palmer, I grew up with in Pittsburgh. Jack Nicklaus was considered the greatest golfer of all time. Tom Watson was at the prime of his career, and he's year after year after year, he's bringing in the greatest players in the game to raise money for Children's Mercy Hospital, which was just unbelievable.
And that's at a time when, fundraising events like that were just beginning to germinate. So one of my, I think one of the incredible experiences I've had here is to get to know Tom quite well.
I know you have a hole in one. We'll talk about that in a minute, but go
Well, I had nothing to do with Tom on that one.
Right.
He would probably deny I had the ability to have a hole in one. But I've gotten to know him. We've spent a lot of time together. I had the honor of just being in his home one-on-one and chatting with him. And he came over to my house, and I was just the honorary chairperson for his first tee golf tournament. The first tee program is a big
which he morphed into after the Children's Mercy Hospital Golf Classic.
Yeah. And, Tom is just a passionate guy. And, I'll always consider it one of the great blessings for me in Kansas City is to get to know one of the greatest golfers in the history of the game, and somebody who also cares very deeply about kids, about their well-being, about their growth and development.
Right.
So Tom's support of Children's Mercy for a long period of time, and it continues today, but really started with the Golf Classic, and we've named the emergency department at our Kansas hospital after him. It's just an incredible story. We appreciate his support so much.
Yeah, right. And then you morph into Big Slick.
Yeah.
You end up getting the Big Slick in, and that has just been, I mean, when you do things right, which Children's Mercy Hospital does, these things happen to you. It's not like, oh, we got so lucky. I know you believe there's a little bit of luck involved, but it's just, to go from Tom Watson and his to go to the Big Slick has just been incredible for you as well.
It's a story that is almost difficult to tell outside of Kansas City. When I talk about Big Slick and what's Big Slick? And I say, well, it's a poker thing.
It started as a poker thing.
It started as a poker thing, but these Kansas City born celebrities that come back to give back to their town, give back to their children's hospital, raise awareness, raise money, bring in their friends from, California and New York.
Saturday Night Live.
And just commit themselves to helping Children's Mercy and helping kids. Parking any ego they might have at the door is just amazing. And I pinch myself every day knowing that I've had a chance to get to know these people and their families, but the good that they have done, and that continues to this day. And it's not only over the 3 days of that event, it is every day where if they're being interviewed, if they're on a TV show, they always call out Big Slick and Children's Mercy.
They do, yeah.
And that's just amazing. And we're just so grateful to these celebrities and their families for their investment in our organization and in this community.
Yeah, and they all wear their Kansas City, from it's just been from Charlie Hustle. They have those shirts on. It's just incredible.
And they're great people.
They're awesome people. And people are amazed that you say, okay, Big Slick, but how'd you get these guys here? I said, they're from here.
Yeah.
There's like 7 of those people are huge stars in Hollywood and on television, commercials, everything that are just, these people are huge stars. Jason Sudeikis, Rob Riggle, Paul Rudd, Eric Stonestreet, David Koechner. We just had Heidi Gardner. They finally let a woman in there. Okay. She broke up the men's club, which is great. And Heidi Gardner has been just a tremendous asset as well. So they're a terrific group.
Yeah, they are amazing. And, at the last Big Slick, for any people had a chance to be there, I'm sitting on the floor of the T-Mobile Center, and Patrick Mahomes is throwing passes to Travis Kelce as he's running around the floor, and at one point knocked a table over right behind me. And I thought, oh, great, Travis just blew his knee out, right behind me, running around the floor of the T-Mobile Center.
Yeah.
But you can't make this up, and it is just inherently part of this Kansas City spirit that you've known for decades, and I've gotten to experience over the last 6 years.
And I think with all the positive vibes about Children's Mercy Hospital, and I guess its acceptance rate or whatever is like 88 or 90% type thing. You can explain what that means, but the deal is everybody knows about Children's Mercy Hospital and what great work they do. I think the biggest thing, and I read this about you, biggest thing you have to protect against is complacency, isn't it? Like we're Children's Mercy. Yeah. We're here. So, yeah.
Well, it's interesting. So, going back to when I was being interviewed for the job, I remember one of our board members at the time asked me the question. He said, we have almost 90% market share, which means 90% of the kids that are needing care come to Children's Mercy. And that's incredibly high. So he said, what's our biggest risk? And I basically said complacency. We can never allow the current state to be defined as the epitome of greatness for us. We always have to have a healthy impatience for the status quo and be better tomorrow than we are today. And I think we've done that well. And that's characterized by the fact that we're not only the children's health system for the Kansas City region, but we saw kids from 50 states and 20 countries last year. So we're a local, regional, national, and even international referral destination for the sickest of kids that need care.
Yeah, and that's all reference. It's all reputation. Yeah. And then, of course, the accomplishments. You have to build your reputation by being able to do things. And that's the important thing as well. The other thing is when you got here, I bet it was 2 years later, we had COVID.
Yeah.
How tough was that to navigate in healthcare and in a hospital with really, really sick people? Young children.
It's almost, it almost seems like 10 years ago. And sometimes we forget it was just a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I was here for about a year and a half before COVID really began to hit us. And it hit children's hospitals differently than adult hospitals because COVID has not been a disease of children primarily. So while the adult hospitals were exceeding their capacity to provide care, we were emptying out our hospital and our clinics at the time. So we were really under financial stress. But what it caused us to do, it created an ability for us to make decisions so quickly, to be nimble. So these are attributes and traits that we still carry out today. But it was a point in time that I would never want to repeat again in the country and in the world. And yet I'm so proud of how Children's Mercy weathered the pandemic,
Right.
how our amazing clinicians and everyone across the organization came together, worked collaboratively, worked across the community. The healthcare community across Kansas City came together in ways that maybe have never been seen before. So it was a proud moment in a paradoxical way for Children's Mercy and for Kansas City. Don't ever want to repeat it again, but we learned a lot. We did incredibly well. And as I look at how other organizations across the country weathered the pandemic, we did really well under the circumstances.
Yeah, and while the normal citizens running around, mask on, headed for the basement, staying home, staying out of workplace or whatever, everybody with COVID is coming to you.
They are.
I mean, and then people have to work around that day in, day out, their job. It's incredible the mindset of people that are in healthcare.
Yeah, one of the early conversations we had to have as we were sending people home to work remotely, except for those doctors, nurses, respiratory therapists, and so forth that had to come to work. As a leadership team, we had a conversation and we asked ourselves, what do we do? Do we work from home or not? And, one of the things that I said was social distancing should not mean leadership isolation. And if we expect our doctors and nurses and respiratory therapists to come in every day and care for kids, we've got to be here to support them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we did
because
that.
they look to you anyway.
Yeah, we ensured that we were safe and we weren't doing anything that was stupid. However, it was important to show those folks who were delivering care and taking risks in doing that they knew that their leadership team was behind them. So I think that was good.
Okay, you are currently in the process of looking for a successor.
Yeah.
And you're narrowing down the field. But what is the one thing you are looking for in that successor? Or if there's more than one thing you're looking for in that successor, and what they have to know about Children's Mercy compared to maybe where they had been?
Yeah. Well, first of all, this search is being led by a search committee comprised of our board.
But you are being consulted.
I am. So I'm, tangentially part of the process and so forth. But, the way I think the search committee and I look at this is an opportunity. I had the great honor of coming in on the heels of 24, 25 years of great leadership by Rand O'Donnell, amazing growth and expansion that occurred. We've done our part over the last 6 years to take a great organization and elevate it even further. This is now a great opportunity for the next leader to do the same. So I think, the characteristics of the next leader that I think the board is looking for is somebody who's going to continue to be committed to a growth mindset, not having complacency, continuing to expand and evolve and serve more kids, create more impact, continuing to advance our vision for research, which is just making great strides and continue to be supportive of the importance of research as part of our journey, and to continue to engage the community at large, the donor community, and be engaged in the community, recognizing that Children's Mercy has to have a seat at the table on those issues and topics that even transcend healthcare sometimes, but are important to the community at large. So I think those are some of the key characteristics. And I think it's really important too. One of the things I tried very hard to do is to be visible and accessible to our team members that, as I described, do the real work every day. They need to know who their CEO is.
Sure.
They need to know that they care and they're being supported. I won't get to know 8,800 people well, but I want them to know who I am and that we are visible and accessible. And I think that trait is being looked for in the next CEO as well, because we are only as good as the amazing caregivers and supporters of care that are carrying out the mission every single day.
Right.
So,
in fact, I heard one of the business guys that we've talked to on this podcast. He said his father taught him to walk the floor, meaning from the guy who's cleaning up at night, the whole thing, all the way through to the main doctors and the main research people, to know who they are and what they are going through for all practical purposes, and listen to them. Communication.
No doubt about it. I describe it as sort of a basement to boardroom style because, our environmental service techs, they're not just cleaning a floor, they're preventing infections from occurring in the operating room. They're creating a first impression for those who walk in the door, and they do an amazing job of it. So that is just so important, I think, to know that every person plays a critical role. Yeah.
Any major achievements since you've been there that you dwell on, or has it just been the continuation of this hospital nurse greatness?
There's some things that I would call out that I'm so proud that our team has really, bolstered. So, when we came to Children's Mercy 6 years ago, we sort of mapped out a three-phase plan, a foundational, transitional, and transformational plan. And in the first phases, we had to kind of revamp the organizational structure. I had to put a team together and so forth. But then we began to put in what I would call building blocks of our transformation. We created something called the Berry Institute. The Berry Institute is our investment in developing leaders from within. Because candidly, most of my executive team that I recruited came from the outside. But I saw so much talent in the organization. I made a commitment to myself and the organization to develop that talent so that we would have succession plans and building that leadership that could nurture the amazing culture that we have and create world-class outcomes in a safe environment. We integrated our physician practice plan. We aligned our physicians' work around our vision. We opened the Research Institute. So we did a lot of these building blocks that have now enabled us to really leverage these investments. Our research trajectory is just amazing. Our continued growth in our clinical programs is amazing. We have one of the top 5 solid organ transplant programs in the country right now, both in terms of volume and outcomes. We have an amazing fetal health program. We have an amazing heart program that delivers incredible cardiac care to the smallest of babies, where our surgeons are operating on hearts the size of a walnut. It's just amazing. So, we have had incredible accomplishments, and we continue to grow, and it's been an incredible journey.
Memory for you that you'll take with you as you head on, and I know you won't just go retire and go sit somewhere and do nothing. You have too much of a type A personality to do that. But the memory, fun memory, sad memory, happy memory, whatever.
Well, COVID will definitely be a memory. Okay. I don't know whether I would,
I wouldn't call that a good memory. No.
But you can't ignore it, and but it will. I will have looked back and know that I was the CEO leading a major healthcare organization through a 100-year pandemic, and just so proud of the way people carried us through that. But I would say that I was asked to come in and be a change agent to a large degree. And I think what we did to position the organization clinically, operationally, from a research standpoint, we have incredible financial strength. And that's important. Yes. The ability to remain independent.
Your donors are very important.
Our donors are.
In fact, you have your patients, who are young. In fact, no one is 21 and under, correct?
For the most part.
For the most part, 21 and under. So you have young patients, you have their families, and you have their extended families, and then you have the donors. Yeah. You have to you have to please a lot of people. You have to keep a lot of people happy.
And I think, the things that I will remember, one thing we haven't spoken about yet is, we have invested heavily in a program called Illuminate, which is intended to address the mental health crisis impacting kids in this region and its course across the country. So Illuminate is a $275 million investment over 5 years in 14 projects. That range from prevention and screening to expanding inpatient care to continuing to evolve research in the mental health space. And all of that, we are over a year into the Illuminate journey. And I am so proud of the progress that we are making in collaboration with the community, with the support of donors, to address the crisis that was brewing before COVID.
Right.
COVID put it into hyperspace, and we have an opportunity to now move that needle.
Yeah.
So that is something I will look back on with a lot of pride, because I think we're saving lives now, and we have an opportunity to save more lives going forward. We've grown. We've invested in growth in Wichita, in Topeka, soon to be Springfield, Missouri. So we continue to extend our reach, which is really important for us because we have an opportunity to serve more children and to keep care local in those communities.
Yeah, right.
But when those kids need complex care, we have the amazing resources of our Del Hall campus to provide that care. Yeah. So I'm proud of that growth and the extension of our impact beyond the region, and we continue to do that. So
yeah, and the mental health for the kids is so. I mean, it's its own pandemic at the moment. You know, so the social media has been terrible. COVID sent everybody in the house and away from school, and it all just multiplied as it went. It is a critical. It's a critical need.
Yeah, it's well said, and it's something we sort of developed 3 guiding principles in the Illuminate journey. Number 1 is we have to truly make an impact. A lot of folks are trying to do stuff in mental and behavioral health. We don't want to just check a box. We want to truly make an impact, move the needle on the crisis. Number 2, it has to be sustainable. Unfortunately, the insurance companies aren't reimbursing for mental health services the way they do for other traditional care. So we want to, and that's where the community support comes in and our donor support. But number 3, we have to be collaborative. We can't do this alone. We have to partner with other people and organizations that are both impacted by the crisis and have the opportunity to impact it.
Right. It's very, 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 very necessary too. Yeah. How much is AI impacting?
Yeah, it's interesting. Just literally had a big conversation in our executive team meeting about that. So artificial intelligence and the overall evolution of technology is occurring at a rapid fire pace right now. And we are beginning to inculcate the learnings and the evolution of this technology in healthcare. So there's no question, the future state, artificial intelligence, machine learning, predictive data and analytics, that is all beginning to impact us. And one of the examples that I'll point to that we're doing at Children's Mercy is something we call the Patient Progression Hub. This is a partnership with GE, General Electric, and uses real-time data, predictive analytics, and artificial intelligence to predict where there may be barriers in the flow of patients, our staff, materials. When we know what's going to happen ahead of time, we can address those barriers and improve the delivery of care, the safety of the care, the efficiency of the care. And we're beginning to see that impact as we speak. Right. No question, this is the future state for healthcare, for society in all probability. We've got to be very strategic in how we apply it because we don't want to do harm. We want to do good.
Yeah, right.
But no question, it's evolving, and we are docked into that space.
Yeah, right. And now, whichever way it goes, you have a platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
To address it.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about your family a little bit. Okay, let's talk about Maureen and the kids.
Yeah,
I know you had a very emotional moment at Penn State when you went up to deliver the commencement speech to their. You tell me
the College of Human Development. And
right.
My youngest daughter, Jenny, who is a speech pathologist today, was in one of the majors that was part of the College of Human Development. So I had, one of the greatest honors of my life outside of marrying my beautiful wife and the birth of my 3 children to give the commencement address at Penn State. And my daughter was in the crowd getting her diploma. So I was able to hand her diploma on stage. And that was just a great, great honor and something we'll remember forever.
Yeah. And how is she doing?
She is doing great. So I have 3 kids. Kristen is 30. She lives in Chicago. Brian is 29 and Jenny's 27. They are both in Arlington, Virginia, outside of D.C. My 2 girls are getting married next year, so we got to have 2 weddings.
See, you can't retire. How can you possibly retire and get 2 daughters?
You're not the first person that's told me I'm doing this backwards.
You are really doing it backwards.
So I should, keep getting paychecks.
Hang on
for
a few years.
Yeah, but no, the 2 girls are getting married. Our son is doing great. So we're just blessed. And Jenny's doing great. She's in an 8-person private practice in Fairfax, Virginia. And our son, Brian, just started a new job with that he's doing well in. And our daughter, Kristen, is getting ready for her wedding in April and doing well. And Maureen, as I mentioned, pediatric nurse. We just celebrated our 33rd anniversary. We actually were able to do it in Hawaii with our whole family. It's where we honeymooned 33 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Have never been back. But she's pediatric nurse. She's my best friend, my guardian angel, an incredible wife and mother. And she has been just an amazing supporter of this 41-year healthcare journey
for you, yeah.
Which has been, I've had many blessings and achievements, but many challenges, and you face rejection when, when you're going, sometimes it's like a bad EKG, as I say, the general trajectory has been positive, but you always have challenges and along the way that you have to face. And Maureen has been just at my side, lifting me up along the way, and I'll love her forever for that.
Yeah. And the challenges too, they make you, when you do get rejected, whatever, you either quit or you try harder. And I think in your case, in Maureen's case, you just kept on going.
Yeah. And, as I kind of drift into the next phase of life, and, one of the things we talk about is I'll do some executive coaching. It's the part of my job I love the most.
You're a very sought after speaker, as a matter of fact. So
yeah, I do a lot of that. But, one of the things I talk a lot about is that I've learned more and I've grown more as a leader and as a human being from the challenges and the failures I've experienced than from my success.
Right.
And I try to impart that upon others that are in the early phases of their leadership journey as well, because that's a circle of life. We all face, challenges, and what you learn and how you grow from those and how you persevere from those, I think, is what can lift you up or tear you down. And
sure.
And I've learned a lot from those experiences.
What are you going to do? What would you like to do?
Yeah.
Now, and I know you're retired, but I know you're going to do something. I know you're very involved, in the why, and there's a lot. You're involved in a lot of areas. What are your thoughts about moving on now once this is over?
Well, first of all, we're staying in Kansas City.
See, well, once you get here, you can't leave.
No, it's not.
Okay.
A lot of people are surprised about that too. They think we're moving back to the East Coast, and we love it here. We do have a home in Florida as well. We'll spend a lot more time there.
Winter.
No question about it. Definitely going to spend a lot of time with the kids and the family, hopefully grandchildren, golf a little bit more, do all that, travel more. The way I want to stay personally engaged is to do some executive coaching to help others be the best that they can be. I love that part of my job now, and I'll do that, but on my time, on my terms, and with the people I want to do it
right.
with. I want to continue to serve on some boards, love to serve on a healthcare board somewhere in the country, and continue to give back to the community, and but do it in a way that is going to allow me and Maureen and the family and our friends to continue to enjoy this next phase of life. And, I have a friend from Chicago who has a place 10 minutes from us in Florida. He worked for IBM for 40 years, retired at age 55, younger than I did.
Yeah. My roommate did the exact same thing. He retired at 55 from IBM.
Yeah. But he said, retirement comes in 3 phases: go, slow go, and no go.
No go.
And he said, I wanted to maximize the go part of it. And, and Maureen and I talk about this a lot as we just observe the world and our lives and the lives of others. There are so many ways to contribute back to society and help other people than just doing the jobs that we do every day. So, my goal is, and Maureen's goal is, to continue to live a purpose-filled life.
Yeah.
And not just make it about us, but make it about continuing to help others.
Yeah, right. And you're only here for, you've only been here for 6 years.
Yeah.
To make that decision to stay here, I think tells everybody a little bit about what we're trying to tell them on the podcast. There's just something about Kansas City. What is it for you, Maureen? I know probably not just one thing, but.
Yeah, it's, again, I've called it the greatest story never told. And part of that is the humility, I think, of just this part of the country being in the heartland. But again, it's this city has such a great spirit about it. And, maybe historically there was almost a little bit of an inferiority complex.
Oh, always, yeah.
But I think that's changing now. And I think there's a realization that this is a place that has and can continue to attract world-class talent, which makes it a place of vibrancy. The arts, the culture, the sports, the food scene, the collaborative spirit of Kansas City. I think an authentic desire to make it better. And it doesn't hurt when you have the success of the Chiefs and the Royals and all of these events, the World Cup coming here in a couple of years. I mean, those are amazing. But I think it's just characterized by the spirit, the infrastructure, the culture. That all just makes this a very special place. All of our friends, since we've moved here, have come to visit Kansas City. Many of them thought there was going to be a tumbleweed rolling past our front door at our home.
Or we're tying up horses at the front of the
saloon. We're tying up the horse and, going out and putting the pail of water out there. And they leave here with like oh my God, what an incredible place. And that's what we've experienced. And that's what others that come here experience. So the future is bright for this community. Yeah. And Children's Mercy is an incredible component of it. And we're just happy to have been a small slice of it.
Yeah, thanks so much for, illuminating even more light on Kansas City. Continue as Children's Mercy Hospital moves forward. Paul, best of luck to you and your wife and the kids. And we're glad you're staying. And as we always say, you're one of the reasons why there's just something about Kansas City. Well, thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Frank.
There's Just Something About Kansas City is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization with the mission of documenting the stories that have built our city to inspire and educate generations to come. Our work is made possible by the generous support of local partners such as the Cockrell Family Foundation, the Bergman family, and the Sherman Family Foundation. For more information about how you can help us share these stories, visit our website at somethingaboutKC.org. Thank you.